Nearly a year as acting chief, Jeffrey Norman was officially sworn in today as permanent chief of the Milwaukee Police Department. Sarah McGrew outlines Norman's plans to address the city's current issues.
Although there was a lot of excitement expressed about a new era at the Milwaukee Police Department, now Chief Jeffrey Norman also acknowledged the challenges the city still faces, including reckless driving. Acting has been struck from Police Chief Jeffrey Norman's title. It was a process that included Norman serving as acting chief for more than 10 months in a 4-month interviewing process with the Fire and Police Commission.
I admit that the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission took its own sweet time in reaching this conclusion, but at least we got it right.
But as Norman steps into the role, he already has a lot on his plate. The city is on track for a record number of homicides this year and continues to deal with a reckless driving crisis.
We're coming together on this, from the faith base, from our community stakeholders. The police department is standing very tall with those who are saying, we want our streets back. For those who are engaged in reckless driving, beware, because this is not going to be acceptable behavior in this city.
So far this year, Milwaukee Police reports 168 homicides, just 2 less than at the same time last year. And since February of this year, the Traffic Safety Unit reports nearly 10,000 speeding tickets given out. More than half of those were for going more than 20 miles per hour over the speed limit.
I do want to expand the Traffic Safety Unit. I think it's an important component in regards to enforcement, but understand that we also still need to work on the education and also engineering.
Norman has been with the police department for 25 years. He is Milwaukee's 20th police chief since 1855. Reporting in Milwaukee, Sarah McGrew, TMJ4 News.
And happening right now, a search for a critically missing Milwaukee man. 34-year-old Jamal Burt was last seen yesterday afternoon near 30th and Wells. He might be driving a blue Dodge Challenger. He's a little over 5 feet tall with dreadlocks. If you see him or know where he is, Milwaukee Police would like to hear from you. A 16-year-old Milwaukee boy was killed and his 13-year-old brother seriously hurt after the stolen car they were riding in crashed Friday night. Police say the brothers were in the back seat. The car was going around 90 miles an hour before it clipped a pole and hit a tree near 36th and Lincoln. The father of the boy who died asked we not show his face on camera, but he shared this heartbreaking message today.
Adults, just always hug and kiss your kids because you don't know when it's the last time you're going to see them.
Police say 2 other people were in the car when it crashed and they ran from the scene. A new health concern for Wisconsin hunters. Coming up, why the state says hunters should mask up when field dressing their deer.
And an inside look at jury deliberations. A consultant who worked on the George Floyd case explains how jurors can work toward their decision in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
All right, thinking ahead to Christmas here. Tomorrow, not going to be a bad day to get the lights up. If you have some time, I'm going to give it a yellow light. The only reason is because it is going to be kind of windy for us tomorrow, but otherwise pretty great conditions to get up the Christmas lights. Temperatures are going to be nice and mild for us. It doesn't last too long, though. We'll talk about how long the mild weather sticks around and when we're going to cool back off. Coming up on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
Members of the jury, the time has now come when the great burden of reaching a just, fair, and conscientious decision in this case will be placed wholly with you jurors.
Those were some final words from the judge today as he addressed the jury after closing arguments wrapped up. Jurors will reconvene in the morning. They will then begin their task of deciding the fate of Kyle Rittenhouse. Ben Jordan explains what goes on behind the closed doors and inside the jury room.
Deliberations take place in a private room inside the courthouse. Ultimately, the jury is responsible for returning a unanimous verdict, but legal experts say there is no telling how long it will take to get there. After listening to nearly 2 weeks of testimony, a dozen jurors from Kenosha County will now decide Kyle Rittenhouse's fate. Christina Marinakis says once the jurors enter deliberations, they often start with an initial vote to see where everyone stands.
That's very common. Well, they'll say, let's get a temperature idea of where everybody is before we start discussing the case, because we may all agree, and there's no need to discuss things very thoroughly.
Christina has been a jury consultant for more than a decade. She assisted the prosecution with the jury selection in Derek Chauvin's murder trial. The former Minneapolis police officer was found guilty of killing George Floyd while on duty.
One of the jurors in that case said they all agreed as soon as they got in the room on a guilty verdict, but they still took the time to go through and look at the evidence and to be sure that that was the right result.
One of the first items on the agenda for the jury is selecting a foreperson. That person is responsible for making sure every juror gets to participate and the discussions remain orderly. During deliberations, the jury discusses the evidence to review the facts of the case and how it pertains to the law.
The idea is that they will discuss the evidence, share their opinions with one another, spend time discussing whether they think the prosecution has met their burden of proof, but they don't really get a blueprint for how to go about doing that, other than to just discuss the evidence and listen to one another and keep an open mind.
John Gross is a UW-Madison Law School professor who has more than 20 years of experience serving as a criminal defense attorney. John expects jurors to spend a great deal of time sifting through video evidence.
The jury's going to be able to look at that video as much as they would like in their jury room and figure out what they think you can see and hear and then conclude from all of that video evidence.
Given the complexities of this case, John says there's no telling whether the jury will reach a verdict in hours, days, or weeks. There's also the possibility they don't agree on one or more of the 5 counts.
They're unable to agree on a count. That's a mistrial. And then the prosecution has the option of retrying the defendant on those specific charges that the jury could not reach an agreement on.
Given that Rittenhouse faces several counts and various lesser charges, John says it is possible the jury could agree to convict on some charges and acquit on others. Reporting outside the Kenosha County Courthouse, Ben Jordan, TMJ4 News.
Ben Jordan, thank you. The Kenosha Police, the Sheriff's Department say they've been working with local, state, and federal law enforcement. They want to be ready for any reaction that could happen to whatever this verdict could be. Governor Evers has also put 500 National Guard troops on standby. We hope none of that is needed and it stays as quiet as it is tonight outside the courthouse. But Katie, I am certain there will be quite a bit of protesting here. We all just hope